Hello and welcome. My name's aLex Levin, and you're with us here through the portal of YouTube, Sun and Moon Studios YouTube channel. With a little help from our friends is the theme this morning, and friends that I've got near me this morning, and in addition to the little dog who may make some sound. Maybe I'll give you a close-up of these little guys again. These are renditions of Ganesh. The one on the taller one on your right has a little mouse or rat right at the base of his seat. That's his vehicle. So he's got a friend and a transport. So our friends come in many, many forms. In a sense, our whole body and our own being is a collection of friends, relationships that can support us. And certainly when we go through any trials or challenges, we can really benefit from the connections with our friends, don't you think? And sometimes it's just enough to think of them, to bring to mind the friend while you're in your own distress or issue that you're working with, whether it's physical or mental. Sometimes putting that down for a second, or just not letting it consume you, but just seeing it as another, in a way, possibly friend. That challenge might be a friend that's in disguise, and making some space to think of your friend and the support you have. Or I might need to call that person and see if they would lend me their hearts and shoulders and ears to listen. And in talking with them or just being with them in whatever way you can in these social distancing times. We had the opportunity to share some time with friends in their backyard yesterday at distance, but it was wonderful to see them. I haven't been with them in a long time. So this little guy that I just showed you, two different renditions of Ganesh from the Hindu pantheon, is considered like a patron saint of new beginnings, invoked for those celebrations or occasions for writers, for inspiration for writers. He is someone who delights in sweets and gives us permission to do the same. He is also said to be the remover of obstacles. So that's a handy friend to have in your pocket, to think of, to invoke at difficult times when you feel burdened with obstacles. I've also heard it said that sometimes this elephant-headed god, Ganesh, puts obstacles in our way on purpose. And so that was a little confusing when I first heard it. But for today's theme, some of our friends, and we need to rely on those friends that are our support. The good listener, the friend who's gone through a certain circumstance, the friend with wise advice, the friend who is a cup of tea, the friend who is taking care of ourselves, the friend who is your pet, the friend who is sometimes some advice you don't want to hear, but it is good advice, and you recognize that after perhaps first pushing it away. And maybe that's a good segue into the kind of obstacles or challenges that we don't seem to want to welcome. In Rumi's poem, The Guest House, he invites us to welcome every guest that comes to ourself, as the metaphor of a guest house. Welcome them gladly, welcome them in because they may be bringing some new delight or some insight. They may be a guide that we weren't aware of before. And I'd like to share a poem with you. My teacher has encouraged us to memorize poems, and I have memorized The Guest House, but the one I'm going to share with you is by Oriah Mountain Dreamer. She wrote a book called The Invitation, and this poem is called Spring Blessing, and I'm going to hijack it for the fall as well. It's a little different take on, so as a friend comes, and I'm going to say that our thoughts could be thought of as friends. And so when we sit in meditation and thoughts come to us, or when we've got a story we'll call that a thought that's been going on for a long, long time, as she frames in this poem, we may be able to recognize it, to fully recognize it, and move on, transform, take that thought in, take what's needed from that thought, take the lesson in. So the poem is Spring Blessing. One day you wake up, able to name the weight you've been carrying, realizing it's not a part of your body or being, not essential in any way to journeying or joy. You set it down lightly, without fanfare, in the long, soft grass at the side of the road, and walk on. Surprised to find yourself smiling in the warm sun for no particular reason at all. So one of the very important parts of meditation, and this might seem to be a part that we try to get good at to not think, to clear our mind of thoughts. But another angle on seeing that is to acknowledge, to fully recognize our thoughts, and yet in meditation practice, not engage with them. There's times that we may need to hold them more in a light, and it's another kind of practice. But being aware of our thinking and maybe the character of it. So some traditions have you put a label on the thought that comes, like a question, or that it's an image or a thought or a worry, and you could play with that during today's practice if you like. Or when you notice a thought comes, you might use this idea, as I mentioned, I think last week, of stepping off the train of thought. So as if the thought or the story that comes is that you're riding a train, you've gone away from just you're sitting, you've gotten on the train and it's taking you. And the moment you recognize it, that moment, as if you could stop time and press the bell on the train, get up and walk, see yourself walking off the train. You've arrived again to here, to your seat, to the stillness. That's an incredibly powerful moment of practice, and I would say call for celebration rather than, darn it, I was thinking again for the gazillionth time. So let's see how we welcome ourselves, how we welcome our thoughts, the thoughts that maybe Ganesh puts in our path as we meditate together today. So perhaps you've found your seat as I've spoken. And part of finding the seat, in addition to the ground very important part, the ground, sensing our ground. Part of that is also deciding how you will hold your hands, arrange your hands, whether on your legs, face down, or face up in the palms. And just arriving, if we use the train metaphor a little more, we're just sitting here in the station, just ready. Or we are just sitting, waiting for our train. It might be the meditation, just waiting, just attending, which in French, attendre is to wait. Perhaps that's to wait on as a waiter or waitress would wait on whoever they're serving. And so this first step of the ground sound breath mantra pointers, just this can be so powerful if all you do is tend to your posture for these 12 minutes or so. You can receive the gentle and powerful presence of gravity. And her counterpart of levity. Gravity and levity in the physical as we feel it tangibly here. And metaphorically, as in very serious issues, grave issues, and lightheartedness. And breath is here. And breath is here. And one of the characters of thoughts that may be visiting you can be sort of subtle and it can be overt is the way you're grading yourself, you're evaluating yourself as a good meditator or not. When you see that thought, that kind of thought riding on your shoulders, feels like it's right here on my shoulder. You set it down without fanfare, but having fully acknowledged, even momentarily, may feel fluid and easy, and it may also show you some obstacles. And what if we just notice them? Perhaps they're in thought or they're in sensation. Ground, breath, and sound. Sound and space around. So ground gives us the verticality, and sound gives us the spaciousness to the right and left, to the front and back, the horizontal. The outer coming in and the inner going out. And the listening aspect of sound. Can take us to a very quiet place. Just here, just now. With a little help from all our allies. Some who may even be coming in the shape of a disguise as an obstacle. Here we are just about at 12 minutes. And if you have another 2 minutes, I invite you to a, a self inquiry, an inquiry practice that is helpful to do from this meditative state. Just reflecting, opening this question to yourself of remembering in full technicolor as if it's happening right now, a time when you have met a challenge well, that you've met an obstacle, something that overcame something difficult, or maybe you had a smart reaction or a wise reaction to something challenging. And if in this moment nothing's coming to mind, I'm sure that you have had such an experience, but sometimes they can elude us as we're looking for them. So just and make one up. Be your own superhero. Make your own superhero story of yourself. How you would like to see yourself respond to a challenge, and it might be just how you are in your body. So make it as vivid as possible. What is the weather? Where are you? What's the setting? The colors around you, perhaps the aromas or smells. Who else is there? And take a moment to feel being there, what it is like to have that. Perhaps it's a sense of equanimity, perhaps it's giving yourself space to think quickly on your feet. Perhaps it's that you remembered to include compassion or kindness in your response. Perhaps you knew enough to say, I can't handle this right now, I need to come back later. What does that memory feel like as it's played right now in Technicolor in your mind's eye? Your breath. Fully soak it in. Maybe even notice if there's some place in your body that resonates, comes alive, whether your heart or your gut, perhaps your hands or your face, your backbone. So in the Hindu tradition, as we bring our palms together, we have all the qualities in us that are represented by the gods. And that in this monotheistic religion, they believe in one God, but there's one singular God, but that our minds can't grasp that wholeness. So it's divided up into separate ones like Ganesh. Sense the feel of this mudra with hands at your heart or on your heart. A bit of a bow to each other, to all of us who are here together, supporting ourselves, being that help from our friends. Maybe present whatever gratitude for having experienced this practice together, having reached out, reached in, for the fact that it's available anytime. Thank you. Thanks for joining me today. And so maybe you can notice when you're on the train of thought in a way that's taking you away from the moment in your activities a little bit more. That's part of the benefit of our practice together like this. Be well. Take time to get quiet, sit still, even if it's for just 3 breaths. And Mary Beth, great to see you here again this morning. I think there's a few more of you with me live. And thank you for all of you who joined me in non-real time as well later. And hello, Robert. Yes, be well, stay safe. Great. Love to see who's here. Thank you.